Kiro Reynolds, Remy LeBeau, and the Red Devil. Renault Edams, Daniel Bogdasarov, and Pablo Sierra. DS Andretti, Sebastian Ocampo, and Daf Sanchez. Braun Honda GP, UK Ball, and Pierre Gasly. DS McLaren TGR, Oscar Folstad, and Bastian Tan. DS Techeetah, Marcus Nelson, and Reva. DS Venturi Formula E Team, Tommy, and Ionet Babinus Jr. Mercedes EQ, Zay Lane, and Mohamed Nawawi. Aurelio Pinnacle, Akari Lopez, and Leo. Sims Motorsport Nissan, Tenali Gabo, and Zach Wallace. Nissan Nismo, Santino Milan, and Enoch Yui. Preseason testing in Season 20, we are back in Jeddah. Daf Sanchez on pole from Babinus Jr. and teammate Tommy. Then it's Revo, Sebo Campo, Marcus Nelson on his return. Then it's Bastian Tan, Oscar Folstad, Pablo Sierra, Remy LeBeau, Daniel Bogdasarov, the Red Devil, Pierre Gasly, teammate UK Ball, Zach Wallace, Leo, Tenali Gabo, Akari Lopez, Enoch Yui, the returning Mohamed Nawawi, Santino Milan, and Zay Lane. Well then, this is some time for the teams to break into their brand new machinery as the anniversary season of Season 20 has its pre-season underway, and you can see both front row men, Sebastian Ocampo and Marcus Nelson, all four of them testing the hard tyres, but with their teammates testing the softs as well as they now come through the first chicane. On board with Tommy, we've already got a virtual safety car, and that's the McLaren of Bastian Tan out of the race, and he's got his tyre on the track, and I think Remy LeBeau for Kiro Renault also involved in that. So the rookie French driver in the number 27, that's Polarox's old number, and he's already found himself an incident. So we've already got a virtual safety car. I'm just going to touch on these liveries. DS Andretti returning to the DS powertrain. They've ditched a main sponsor of Guggenheim for now Gainbridge. DS Venturi have taken their old livery and made it black. DS Automobiles has become DS Techeetah. It is still technically the same team. They've just gotten an actual name for the team in Techeetah. But you do still see DS Automobiles everywhere else that you would regularly see it. It's only when you look behind when you see Techeetah on the rear wing. As look at that, an overtake for fifth and spinning for the second time in a preseason test. Always in the least obvious part, it's Folstad, and he's, big flip. Oh, that's more problems further back. And look at that, UK Ball just pirouetting there. We've got another virtual safety car. Oh, dearie me, what is going on here? Many a driver out of this race, and that is Braun Honda's day over, in fact. Braun Honda and McLaren, neither team will continue with testing, and considering what we've seen so far, it seems like Honda needs a lot more. They don't have any, they're not being supplied by any team. In fact, there are only 3 powertrain suppliers out of the 7, I think, that are actually supplying other teams, and that's DS Automobiles, who are supplying most of the field, Renault, and Nissan. Honda, Aurelio, and the returning Mercedes do not supply anyone. So that's going to allow them to focus more on their car and not making sure that their powertrain works with their customers' cars. But at the same time, as you can see, they also lose out quite a bit in testing time, because now Honda don't get time to test their powertrains. Mercedes only has one car to do it. Nissan don't look that good, but it really does seem to be that the DS powertrain is the class of the field, whether getting a track limits warning in the factory DS Kachita car, the gold, black and white car, as they now round out the final turn. And now they will go on to start lap number 3. And it looks like Milan came into the pits earlier on. They're forming a little bit of an attack mode train. Attack mode has been slightly powered up for this race. Remy Lebao or Fakiri. I think the Kiro Renault team seems to just have a lot more speed in the straight line, but everywhere else it just seems like they suffer. Zach Wallace, the Sims Motorsport Nissan, and the Miku Mobile, as it's been dubbed by fans. That's a pretty good time for the man who's just come back from the FG Series. And for Marcus Nelson, of course, testing hard tyres, he's not really going for position, he's just trying to see how quick his car can go. But look at that, Remy Lebao sending it down the inside on the Season 9 champion. And to touch on Sebastian Ocampo's Season 19 championship, it's a really impressive feat. But of course, a lot more is to come in this championship. As we can see, Marcus Nelson, he has been dropping down the order, but that's mainly down to his hard tyres just not switching on as quickly as the mediums and softs, but those softs beginning to show their age. And there goes Marcus Nelson back past Remy Lebao, whose teammate the Red Devil, whose 3-letter initial code I still haven't updated, unfortunately. Tommy now setting a new fastest lap as he's closing in on Daf Sanchez, and down the inside goes the number 45 on the man who seriously needed some better results last season. Sims Motorsport Nissan, by the way, currently running in 11th and 12th. That team has never won a race in this championship before, and the only time they finished first in anything was this time last season in the preseason test. Never again have they won a race, but here comes Revo trying to get past Tommy in the Dark Horse DS Venturi, but he gets passed by the gold and black DS Kachita that's now ahead of both Venturis behind. Venturi finished last season at the bottom of the pile, but continued their partnership with DS Venturi because they just had a feeling that that powertrain was going to do much better than any of the others. And it's a similar story down at Andretti, who didn't use the DS as powertrain last season, but still took the championship. Of course, the first half of the season was pain, but Ocampo just works at a different frequency, it just seems, to a lot of other drivers. So it's now rounding the final turn, Daf Sanchez, and look at that, hard tyres beginning to peel up. In comes Tommy with soft tyres that have more than peeled up. They look like dried apricot, they look like a freaking raisin, to be honest. But here comes Revo with those heavily worn soft tyres, and his job now is to either follow the car ahead and just see how well his car can follow cars ahead, or just manage those softs, because now tyre management is going to be part of the game. And he's lost so much time to Sanchez ahead that he's now vulnerable to Babinus Jr. behind the son of his season 14 teammates. There goes Ionet Babinus Jr. to P2. Brilliant stuff from the number 14. And yes, these graphics do look a lot slicker in my opinion, but of course some of it is just an evolution of last season, so it could be a little confusing if you're looking at the colours. But here comes Zach Wallace trying to get past his new teammates in Ali Gabo. Zach Wallace coming in from the FG Series. Similar story for Zay Lane. Those two, I do believe, yeah, they were teammates at Lenovo Ducati but they've moved to the FEMC with different teams. Sims Motorsport and Miss Zach graduated, and Zaylane just moved over to Mercedes. Across the second sector, going to the man who's currently in 7th, as I do believe, yes, Sanchez and Revo both into the pits. Babinas Jr. leads from Sebastian Ocampo in 2nd, as the Red Devil for Kero Renault in the number 99, trying to close in on Pablo Sierra in front of him. Pablo Sierra, his first half of the season driving for Nissan Nismo, was a pretty good half of the season, just kind of fell off from there. And look at this, the Red Devil gets past. Up into 7th goes the number 99 for Kero Renault. Now Pablo trying to get closer to the back. And just pointing this out, there seems to be a massive divide between the DS and Renault powertrains and the rest of the powertrains in the field. It doesn't feel like they've correctly developed them yet. Out goes Remy Lebao. Virtual safety car, and just pointing this out about the Kero lineup, neither driver drove in the FG series, so this is their first season of racing in any of our categories. Marcus Nelson did spend a season in the FG series waiting to get a seat, partnered alongside initially Ross Chastain, then Elliot Deli, who has not found a seat. He's currently running in 3rd position on his return to the Formula E Monoposto Championship. Running the final turn is Babinas Jr., and he's gonna do 7 laps on the hard tyres. 7 laps on the same compound tyre. These hards look really, really good. So we can't really wait much longer for Shanghai. As here into the pits comes Marcus Nelson, putting on soft tyres. He's going to come out behind his teammate. He's going to likely come out behind Daniel Bogdasarov, but ahead of Zach Wallace. There's a lot of space between those two. Rounding the final turn in the cyan and pink Sims Motorsport car. And honestly, I do like the colour combination here. It's not something that you see a lot in motorsport. And virtual safety car, Sanchez is out at the same place Remy Lebao went out. Unfortunate for the DS Automobiles powered man. But oh well, some things work out and others don't. And Mercedes joining the championship, really good. However, it does seem like they are going to wait until season 21 to actually be more competitive, as we now get back racing. 5 laps to go. Tonali Gabo for Sims Motorsport, currently in 10th, joined Sims after seeing what they were doing throughout season 19 and knowing that if he went there, he could have given them a race win. And also, his luck, Renault's luck in general last season, was just not there. Sierra getting a track limits warning in his blue Renault Edams car. We're looking with the number 97, his teammate Daniel Bogdasarov, however. In comes Babinas Jr. and Sebastian Ocampo. Revo all over the back of Tommy, the man in front of him. Coming through the first chicane. And the gold and black Diaz de Cheetah, ready to pounce on the Venturi in front of him, but goes way too deep. Almost hits the wall there, just about keeps his car on the track. That was a bit scary now, wasn't it? Tommy coming through into the second sector. Akari Lopez comes in for his second and final stop. So the soft tyres really didn't seem to last that long. Tonali Gabo holding up his teammate now. And I think the timing tower, well, the Red Devil is kind of holding up Sierra, Bogdasarov and Babinas Jr., but I'm pretty sure the order that you see on the timing tower is pretty indicative of how powerful the powertrains are. The DS powertrain is unimaginably quicker than the rest. As you can see, Babinas Jr. is basically just being held up by the guys powered by Renault in front of him, but gets past the most easy to spot car on the grid, the Kero Renault. I mean, how are you going to miss this? As he now heads down into this, the final hairpin with 3 to go, but Revo closing in. He's found his way, makes it down the inside through the first chicane. Does he take the lead? He's still alongside Tommy, heading down into turn number 3. Marcus Nelson sets a new fastest lap, close to the wall for Revo, and Tommy closest still, and he loses out to the race lead. Revo leads, Tommy second, Bogdasarovas third, but the other Venturi of Babinus Jr. getting past as Ocampo follows him through. It's a DS-powered 1, 2, 3, 4, and Ocampo is out, reigning World Drivers' Champion Sebastian Ocampo out of the preseason test, and that is Andretti's day done and dusted. 3 laps to go. So Revo is still heading the pack. Sims Motorsport Nissan, and just Nissan in general, they don't seem to have a good package this season compared to last season's package at the start. Looks really good, but for the second season in a row, Nissan getting outclassed by their sole customer team. As further ahead, moves being made still, as we see the Red Devil dropping into 7th position behind Denali Gabo. And the thing is, I'm not really too sure what to think about a lot of the powertrains here, as in comes Tommy. Like, the Mercedes powertrain only being driven by a returning FEMC face in Mohamed Nawawi. He's currently in 10th, and I think Mercedes are sandbagging here. I'm not too sure on that. We haven't seen a lot from the Honda powertrain. Haven't seen a lot from the Aurelio powertrain, because Lopez, the only man out there on it, with it, is currently in 12th position. And the Renault powertrain seems to be the second best, but at the same time, that DS powertrain is unimaginably quicker. In fact, Marcus Nelson currently in 3rd with pretty worn rears. His teammate Revo was pretty worn all around. If Revo comes in, he remains in the top 3. That is the level. Because Tommy as well, he's just coming to the pits and is ahead of the Red Devil, who is about to be passed by the team they supply. And Honda, we've just received word, have said that it makes no difference which powertrain you use. And this preseason test is showing quite the opposite. In comes Revo for DS Cheetah, putting on soft tyres for the last 2 laps, and I'm guessing that they're going to try and set a new fastest lap here. Tommy rounding the final turn. He might take 3rd from his supplier, but there's no way that Revo's going to come out of the pits in 5th rather, because look at this. The Red Devil for Kero Renault in the number 99. Look at that, Revo's just come out in 4th. His teammate Marcus Nelson has the fastest lap of the E3, but look at how worn Babinus Jr. and for that matter, Marcus Nelson's tyres are. So, Tommy, and more importantly, Revo, they've got some really, really slick softs to use for the rest of this test. It seems like a lot of teams going on to softs, just seeing what their 1-lap pace looks like. And with Marcus Nelson, I think he's shown that DS Cheetah in particular have some really, really good pace, but the powertrain seems to be better in the hands of the black and blue. Babinus Jr. leading the field, as his father has done oh so many times before. Of course, his father never won the championship. In season 20, he could do what his father couldn't. And he's definitely got the machinery under him to do so. As across the line comes Babinus Jr. to start the final lap of the season 20 test. So Babinus Jr. leading from Marcus Nelson and Tommy. Revo currently in 4th. and he's gonna try and set the fastest lap here. That's what we expect, as the Red Devil currently in 5th. I think he might be outperforming. Oh, the wall for Marcus Nelson. Marcus Nelson's hit the barriers, and I think he might have just found the limits of the soft tires' grip when you stay out for this long in a full course. Yellow Bogdasarov out of the E3 at the wall, down at turn number 5, and that's going to end it. So, Babinas Jr. now coming through the second sector. And right now I'm just going to wrap up my thoughts on the preseason test. It just seems like the DS powertrain is going to be unmatched. And considering that I'm pretty sure about 4 to 5 teams are on it, McLaren are on it, Andretti are on it, Venturi are on it, and yes, Techeetah themselves are on this powertrain. It does seem like it's going to be the top 8 being taken by the same 4 cars, at least at the first race in Shanghai. But here in Jeddah, for the preseason test, Babinas comes across the line and takes first. Marcus Nelson, even with that dinged up front wing, is going to be second. Tommy should be third, but Revo still gave us pretty much a grandstand finish, 0.03 of a second. If this was a race, that would be one of the single closest gaps between drivers. The Red Devil comes home with 5th. Then it's Pablo Sierra, Tenali Gaba, who now rounds out the final 10, and Okui, Akari Lopez, Mohamed Nawawi, Zach Wallace, and Santino Milan. But I think there's one thing that you need to take home and look at the gap between Revo and the Red Devil. 9 seconds. And then between Sierra and Tenali Gabo, over 20 seconds. And then for the rest of the field, excluding Milan, of course, there are barely any gaps. This is the DS Automobile powertrain at its finest, it seems. So we do, of course, have podiums in the preseason test, and Marcus Nelson returning to the podium during this test must be a very nice feeling. But of course, top 8, Babinas Jr., Marcus Nelson, Tommy, Revo, the Red Devil, Pablo Sierra, Tenali Gabo, and Not Huey, Akari Lopez, Mohamed Nawawi, Zach Wallace, and Santino Milan. Those were the guys who finished. And I do believe that the DS Automobiles powertrain should be quite dominant this season, but we'll only know once we're there at the first race in Shanghai. So we'll see you guys next time then when the Formula E Motorsport Championship returns.